Yo, what's going on, man? It's your boy Ricky Collins, Ricky the CEO, and you are watching the Packed House Live podcast, season 1, episode 3. We got a very special guest today, man. My boy Mike J. He the CEO of Black Tech Talent. They just had a crazy event, legendary event called the Community Tech Fest, and I'm excited to have him here, man. He's the real GOAT. So I'm excited to have you here, man. Thanks for coming through. There we go. Thanks for coming through the Packed House Live podcast, season 1, man. We just getting started. Sure. How you feeling?
Sure. Man, I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on the show.
No problem, man. You already know I had to have you. I can't do this without my boy
Yes,
Mike
sir.
J.
Yes, sir.
Yo, so tell us more about your event that you just had. I know you had Jacob Fry as the main speaker. It was, sold out, man. Tell us about that event and how that went.
Yeah, man. We had an event called the Community Tech Fest, and the vision for the event was to really focus on that tech pipeline, that community pipeline. And so in June of 2021, I did a summit. You were there.
Yep, exactly.
And, the summit was really about recruiting. So a lot of the activities and stuff were adult focused, right? 18 and up, college age students, to people well into their career looking to switch jobs or roles or things of that nature, or just to network, right?
Yep.
That was a very successful event for us. And on the third day of that event, we did a demo day, which was like 50% recruiting. And then we did a pitch competition. And then we also had like some product demonstrations. So we had some robots and a couple different things like that. Yeah. And what was dope is during the promotion of that day, I was on NPR radio, I was in Spokesman Recorder, and I was talking about, parents needing to bring their children out, expose them to technology early. Yeah. And so to see a number of different Black fathers show up with their kids was amazing, and saying that they came specifically because they heard me on the radio or because they read the article that I was in. And so it was a dope experience, but I was like, I need this third day and this small event within the third day to be much bigger, right? Mm-hmm. Because this was kind of like exposure, like, hey, these are these robots and this is what they do, right? But it wasn't like play with these robots.
Right.
It wasn't like play with these other displays and things that we have.
Make it more interactive.
Yeah. So I said, you know what, before the year, because the summit was already a huge undertaking. It took 4 months to produce.
Yep.
And so I was like, I have to do it one more time before the end of the year. Yeah. But this time we got to focus on like the youth. Yep. We got to focus on getting these kids in here and like making sure everything can be played with. So my biggest thing was I put out a Google form, and I said, this is what we're doing for the community. Who wants to be involved as an exhibitor? And a bunch of people filled it out. And we spent weeks calling people back and going through their products. And the main thing I told everyone was like, whatever you bring, people have to be able to play with it.
Right, exactly.
Not just you showing them what it can do and then they walk away. Like this, it has to be interactive. And so we had a lot of extremely dope vendors, and we got to have, we had 3 or 4 robotics vendors. We had 2 that had the Oculus and were in the virtual reality, which is part of what the metaverse is. Yep. We had artificial intelligence. We had cryotherapy. We had teeth whitening with the light technology that goes into that.
Man, that's so dope.
We had robot racing. We had coding. We had Lego robotics. We just had so many dope things. And of course, as a business, we still had recruiters on site. Yep. It was at a college, so we had college students and we had people looking for jobs and stuff like that. Yep. So that opportunity was still there. That's going to be built into whatever we do. Yep. But largely, like, to see 5-year-olds playing with robots, to see them, we had an esports setup, competing and playing video games and things of this nature was just beautiful. And that was really my goal. So the event was amazing. We had all these different displays. As you mentioned earlier, we had the mayor of Minneapolis come and do the keynote and talk about, their STEM initiatives, talk about what we've done as a company, meaning Black Tech Talent, and just kind of what needs to happen moving forward and how we can nurture the youth into this field that's ever growing. We
100%.
also launched Black Circuit, which we can probably talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
That's a project that we put together, and then
Tell us about it, actually, man. I know that's with the superhero, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us
So
about it.
so Black Circuit, we're still, we're taking our time to roll out the full details and disclosure, but for the viewers, Black Circuit sitting behind me, that's a cardboard cutout.
Hmm.
And for the listeners, you can go on Google and look up Care 11 Black Circuit, and you can see a demo of the trailer we put out. But essentially,
We
it
making
actually
black
started.
superheroes out here, man.
Yeah, we
Come
we
on now.
we manifesting and we putting things together. And
Yes,
I
sir.
want people, even before I go into the whole creation of it, I want to say that, throughout my career, I've been able to do things that people have only dreamed of doing,
For
right?
sure. Yep.
Even meeting you, you've done things that people have only dreamed of doing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And what we've done with Black Circuit, I mean, there are a lot of illustrators, people who draw and animate that have never made an original superhero, right?
Yep.
And then there are
That's
ones who have
interesting.
made an original superhero and never got it produced as like a costume,
Yep. And
right?
making it to an
There,
actual product. You're right. That doesn't
yeah,
happen
into an
much.
actual product, right? There are many that have never. There are people who do create costumes, costume designers, cosplayers
Hmm.
that have never made an original character, or
Right.
ones who have made an original character and once again haven't been able to bring it to market,
Yep.
right?
Exactly.
And so, what I've done as a Black CEO, what I've created as a Black character,
Hmm.
is rarely done even by people who have the resources to do it.
Right. It's just not on. They just
And
it's not on their
yeah,
radar.
and so at the end of the day, what we're going to be doing with it, 2022 and beyond, is going to be outstanding. But so
Yes,
I
sir.
just wanted to say that so people have the context of like what we pulled off. But essentially, the idea started with I wanted to bring Batman up here.
Hmm.
So I was going to take one of my cars and I was going to get it customized and make it look like the Batmobile. And I wanted to do this whole thing where we'd essentially take kids from like underserved communities
Hmm.
and they could go on missions with Batman, right?
That's a dope idea.
It's
Still,
dope,
that's
right?
still a dope
And
idea with Black Circuit. That's still a dope idea.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I had this idea and I hit up. I actually got connected with somebody who's a veteran, I think 39 years
Hmm.
at DC. He's the one who actually wrote for Batman Beyond, the cartoon series. He
Wow.
created Booster Gold, the Batman versus Superman movie that
Hmm.
came out.
Yep.
They made that movie off of his comic.
Wow.
And
That's
he's
crazy.
the originator of Doomsday. He created Doomsday.
Wow.
So veteran, comic book writer,
Hmm.
illustrator, all of these things. And so I got connected with him and I was working on this project, seeing if we can get this together. But the problem was it was during the pandemic
Right.
and a lot of people just weren't in the office. It was hard to get a hold of people. People were worried about their jobs and, of course, their health. And so
Yep.
we weren't able to do it. But the reason why I wanted to do it was because I was like, there's so much stuff going on with George Floyd at this time.
Hmm.
There's so much stuff going on with the coronavirus. The adults don't have anybody to help with the mental health because it's just uncertainty, right? But
100%.
like the kids really don't have anyone. They weren't able to go to school for half the year and all
Right.
sorts of stuff. So I'm like, this would be something cool. Batman's one of my, favorite superheroes.
Yep.
So, anyways, what wasn't able to put it together. It was going to be like a Halloween thing. I was going to produce, like, shoot the video and everything, GoPros,
Yeah.
all that, and
Crazy.
that didn't happen. So, this year, obviously, Black Tech Talent takes off towards the end of last year.
Hmm.
So this year, when it kicked off, I was like, do I want to pursue this again now that things are starting to open up? Do I want to try to pull this off?
Yep.
And I was like, you know what? I should just create my own superhero. Then I don't have to worry about jumping through,
The best idea
legal
you ever came up
loopholes
with,
and
man.
stuff
That thing
like that.
going like you just
Yeah.
was telling me before we, started on here. Batman. You said what? 150 years? How many years?
Yeah, he's like 150 years old.
Come on, man. Like one day Black Circuit going out. He gonna outlive
Yeah,
you. He gonna, and that's
exactly.
what it's
That's the
about.
goal. When you create things, you pray that they outlive you, if they're supposed to. So, but yeah, so I said, let me create my own superhero. I was like, but it can't be corny.
Yep.
It
Can't
can't
be.
be, like it had, like, I'm I'm serious about the things that I put out and put together. The quality has to be there, and obviously, it's something I'm doing for the people, so it has to be something that people would love to receive.
For sure.
And so, with that being said, I just sat down for like a few weeks, and I was like, just thinking of what he should look like, what he should be able to do,
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature. And I was like, if I can come up with this, that'll be dope. So I came up with it. Still didn't have a name. Then I hired an illustrator and we started working on it. He was really good. It took him like
Yeah,
he
it
had to
looks
do 5
super
or 6
professional.
versions. Thank you, thank
Yeah.
you.
Mm-hmm.
He had to do like 5 or 6 versions, but it only took him 2 weeks to do those versions.
Wow.
And so we got
Easy.
it done. And then I'm like, okay, this is amazing. I'm actually pulling this off.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was like, it has to be, it can't just be an image though, because anybody can do that. Like, can I make this a real person, a real thing that's in the community that
Yep.
people can touch and feel? And kind of my thing with us being a tech company, I was like, imagine if you could work at Stark Industries.
Right.
Like, imagine if you could actually go work for Tony Stark and see the
Legendary.
Iron Man suit when he's not wearing it, like on display, right?
Right.
Like, that's what we're creating. Like, once we open our headquarters, you'll be able, the community, we're going to make sure our headquarters open to the community. So
Right.
you'll be able to stop by and say what's up, and you'll be able to see the actual Black Circuit costume there on display. You'll be able to see like the creative that we're working on and
Mm-hmm.
the things that we're rolling out. So I'm like, this is what we're creating. Like,
I
the
love
white
that,
guys
man.
get to have all the fun. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We're gonna have
Exactly.
something
I
to do.
love that, man. I got a whole bunch of ideas. Just from you telling me that, like, it's just so many use cases that you could use that
For
for,
sure.
and help a lot of kids. So look, let's hit a kind of a U-turn, man. I want to know about how you came to be. So where you grew up at, your life story in a way, not the whole thing, but we just want to know how you came to be the CEO now that's doing all these great things. Where did that start from?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've done a lot of things that people only dream of, and I think people like us who represent the culture of hip hop, but who
Mm-hmm.
also like are looking at the big picture and technology and
For
things of
sure.
that nature. We gotta. It's our responsibility to make things cool again, because in our
Yeah.
culture, people act like certain things are normal even if
Right.
they're not. But essentially, I'm from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Grew up in Minneapolis. Went to a
It
lot of
matter what
different
side,
schools.
man. What north side, south,
Yeah, it
where
don't
you?
matter. I gotta be ambiguous. Twin Cities, you feel me?
I feel you.
Twin Cities. Uh,
North side. We're north
but
side over here.
but actually, I'm actually one of those guys who like kind of lived all over. I've never lived in St. Paul.
Okay.
Um, but I lived in North Minneapolis. I lived in South Minneapolis. I lived in Brooklyn Park,
Okay. That's what's
Golden
up.
Valley, Robbinsdale,
Yep.
just a lot of different places. I went to 11 different schools before graduating
Dang.
high
You,
school.
you was bad or something? Why you was moving schools so
Oh, it
much?
was honestly, it was just growing up poor and
I
like
feel you.
getting
Yep.
evicted or having to move,
Yep.
or whatever it may be. I ended up living in Burnsville for a year and a half, 2 years,
Yep.
because I stopped living with my mom, my stepdad, and went to go live with my biological father, and he ended up being abusive.
Dang.
So I left that situation and
Right.
ended
Yeah.
up on my own.
How old were you when you went to live with him?
I went to live with him, I think, at 16,
Okay.
and I moved out by, I think, around 17.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear
So
that, man.
yeah, I mean, it's part of life, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's part
Part
of
of the
the hustle.
story. Yep.
It's unfortunate, but like that's part of the game. So I lived in Burnsville for a little bit. Um, and that's kind of my younger upbringing. After that, I left and went to South Minneapolis. I lived in Uptown with my grandparents for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like went to school at Southwest. That's where I ended up graduating from.
Okay.
Um,
That's dope. We whooped
so
them.
yeah, it was a crazy like trajectory of going to different schools, and so that kind of gave me that lack of like school spirit, or like made
Right.
me kind of stick to myself, because it's like when you feel like you have no control over your environment,
Mm-hmm.
or like the things that you feel like you want to stand for, the culture of the community,
Mm-hmm.
then you kind of disassociate, right? And
Exactly.
so it's like, imagine going to like one school, and you're like, yeah, we're the such and such, you know what I'm saying, goats.
Yep.
And like, that's all you are. And then like, but next year you move and you're actually at the rival school.
Right.
And then the next year you move and you're at a whole different district. You know what I mean? So
For sure.
so I went through that a lot, and eventually it just got to a point where I shut down, like worrying about making friends, because just things didn't seem like they were gonna last, right?
Right.
Um, so that was kind of like my high school, middle school career. But as far as a personality type, like I made my first $100 outside the house at like 6 or 7.
Dang. That's what's up. I was
So
gonna
I
ask
was,
you like when did you start
yeah,
wanting to be an entrepreneur or kind of seeing that that's a career path for you.
yeah. It's just been in me. Like I've always been a creative, and I've always liked getting money.
Yeah.
So I made my first $100 outside the house at 6. I was drawing pictures,
Okay.
and I went and got like 4 or 5 kids in the neighborhood, and I'm like, y'all want to play a game? And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, let's see who can sell the most pictures. So I think I was selling like the black and white pictures for like $2. And if I colored them in, they're like $5, right? I'm like 6 at this time, so I don't know what I'm pricing. I just know I didn't have no money, now I got some, right?
But that's still a good business model.
Oh
That's
yeah.
smart for a 6-year-old for sure.
Oh yeah, so I got all the kids. They're going out. We're going door to door. Would you like to buy a picture? We had our little folders. We would show people what the options are, and then it got to a point where we sold out. So I went in the house and I was drawing more at this time. I got to do it faster, so I started tracing instead of freehanding.
Yeah.
And I was tracing things out of my coloring book, and the kids were making money. And then they brought it back to me, and I remember being mad at my stepdad because he was like, "You got to pay them." And I'm like, nah, they said they want to do it for free. And he's like, no, you got to pay them. You already got money. But I was like, that's money I had. This is money I just earned, So
Right.
even me not knowing the full on concepts,
Hmm.
it was in my, it was just naturally in me.
That's what's up.
But the kids have fun. They're like, yeah, we're fun. We don't want any money for this.
Right.
So I would do stuff like that all the time and earn money. I remember when Sam's Club and Costco were open, and I would do the same thing, go get stuff for cheap, sell it for more. Used to sell burned CDs. I was one of the black kids early who had a DVD burner because I built my own computer.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so I was able to, make money from that. I used to beat out the vending machine when I go to Sam's Club and get the candy, so kids would come to me at lunchtime for their snacks and stuff. So it had always been in me to make money. I remember one time my cousins came over. I'm probably like in 5th grade at this time, summer break.
Hmm.
Cousin comes to spend the night. They're like, we want some candy. I'm like, all right, follow me. We ain't got no money. We left the house. And at this point, we lived in Eden Park Apartments. You know where that's at?
Yeah. That's in Brooklyn Park.
Yeah,
My
across
cousin
from
used to live there. I
Foothills.
used to be there.
Yeah, so I lived in Eden Park Apartments, bro. So
Yeah.
we used to go into all the buildings that we could get into, right? Because some of
Mm.
them had the security door.
Yeah.
And we would just knock on every floor and say, can we take your trash out for $3?
Wow.
Because the trash, there wasn't a trash chute. You had to walk it out the building to the trash to the dumpster.
That's
And
smart.
so
See,
we probably
we
made
was
like a
only
hundred
we was only
dollars.
shoveling snow and raking
I
leaves
did
and
all that too, but
but
you
you was
gotta be
coming on some
creative. Wasn't no snow
innovative
yet.
stuff, dog. What?
So because we live in an apartment, so wasn't who we gonna shovel for? You know what I'm
Right?
saying?
Yeah, I feel you. Yep.
So so yeah, so we did that. We made like $100 that day.
That's
And
amazing.
one woman, man, she hit us. We should have known. We was little kids. She kept hitting us with the "God bless you."
Hmm.
When they say that too many times, they ain't gonna pay you right.
Right.
So this is what we asked this woman, and she actually was like the building. She wasn't like the manager, but you know how sometimes they appoint like somebody to watch over each building type of thing.
Yep. Yep.
And it was her, and she wanted us to clean out the storage unit, and it was trashed. And we were like, and she was like, "I'm gonna bless you." Da 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 da. So we're thinking like, dang, she probably gonna get $50, $100.
Hmm.
So we in there doing it. She just kept every like 10, 15 minutes, she'd come out. Oh, God gonna bless you. Thank you. Man, we cleaned out this whole thing. Shorty came out and gave us like $10
Oh my
to
God.
divide between 4 people for like 3 hours of work when
No,
we was hustling,
that's
just
crazy.
getting door to door.
Yeah.
So, anyways, but that was another hustle. We would leave the house. My parents were always amazed at the fact that we would leave the house with no money and come back with money. Like it don't for them, it almost felt like we was doing something bad. You know what I'm
Right. Yeah.
saying?
Stealing and doing something.
How do you do this? But So it had always been in it for me. Fast forward to high school, like I said, I took apart my first computer. We had an E-machine. I don't know if you remember those, but they were like the cheap bottom of the barrel computer, desktop computers.
Okay. Oh,
And we
E-Machine. Yeah,
had
I remember
one.
that. Yep.
Yep. And we had one of those. And it got slow.
Mm-hmm.
But for us and our family, it was like, oh, it's broken, don't work.
Right.
It didn't work. It was slow. It had no memory. It didn't have no hard drive.
Right.
And so I didn't know about that stuff either. But I was like, well, since the family doesn't want it, can I just have it?
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, yeah, you can have it, I guess. And then they gave it to me. And I was like, well, since people think it's broke, let me take it apart and look at it. So
Mm-hmm.
I took it apart, still didn't know what I was doing, but studied the pieces. And I'll go to Micro Center and be like, this says hard drive. This is hard drive. Okay, let me da da da. And I just started putting two and two together and spending the money I made on the side to figure out how to rebuild it. And then I had a friend who knew how to download software and stuff. And I ended up rebuilding it, installed a DVD burner, a CD burner. And he came and gave me the latest version of Microsoft, and I was in there.
Wow.
And I made my money back selling CDs and DVDs.
That
You know
was
what I'm
boom.
saying?
My dad was selling DVDs and CDs for years, man, out the crib
Yeah.
because we was the first people on the block that had a burner too. So everybody
Mhm.
coming and getting the mixtapes and movies and whatever. So yeah, that
Yeah.
was being doing that as a kid, man. That was I know you was killing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It was the good life for sure. I was buying my own clothes, my own flat screen, my own game system. So I was on it early.
That's what's up.
Then I'll fast forward a little bit more. So that was kind of my interest into computers.
Hmm.
And I had always wanted to be like I told you, I'm a creative. So like animation always fascinated me.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just computers, websites and stuff. And
Facts.
I just wanted to know how to do. I'm the type of person I just want to know how to do everything, right?
Exactly.
And so what actually discouraged me for a long time was um, teachers.
Wow. Why you say
'Cause I
that?
wasn't really good at math, and you had to be really good at certain different types of math to like code, especially at that time,
Right. Right.
to code and like to do certain things, to do animations. You had, C plus plus and all
Hmm.
that type of stuff at the time. And so they would be like, oh, well, you got to be good at math to do that. You should focus on this. And so
Right.
it really, instead of just showing me how to get better at what I didn't know.
Hmm.
And by the way, I wasn't good at math because I kept switching school. I didn't switch schools when school was done. I would switch in the middle of the school year,
Right. Yeah. Math
because it
is
was,
tough no matter where you at.
yeah. But
Yeah.
I never got to learn all the way through. I
Exactly.
never got to like learn. I would switch schools and the other school was on something else.
Right. For sure. Yep.
So that's where the hiccup had come in. And so I was actually discouraged away from what I was doing by teachers. It wasn't even by like kids in the hood thinking it was nerdy or nothing like that.
Right.
It was really just that. Um, Leave there. And the other thing I was really into was film production, screenwriting, things
Okay.
like that. Like I said, animation. So left from there, and I had got a situation where when I stayed with my biological father, one of his friends who I had met, I think he worked for like a public access TV station or
Yep.
something, but
Yep.
he was like, we just buy all new equipment, and the equipment we have already has Adobe on it. He
Wow.
was like, so if you can save $500, I'll give you one of the computers with everything already on it.
Wow.
Right. And
Plug.
later on, I found out that my biological father told him not to give it to me, not to
Hater.
sell it to me. I went and got a job. I was at Subway. I'm making like $6.50 an hour or something like that,
Yeah.
hustling, save the money. And like I overheard it in a conversation that he told dude not to do that for me.
That's crazy,
He was
man.
a hater. He was abusive mentally, emotionally, physically. We got into two fights, like two actual real fights. And then I had ended up leaving. So, but at that time I had got more into like fashion,
Yep.
still film production and stuff. I ended up doing music for a while, but
Hmm.
I was doing the music more, not because I wanted to be a rapper, but because I liked writing.
Exactly. Yep.
And like people don't like reading. So it's hard to get people to read your movie scripts, right?
Right.
Where you
Exactly.
can write a song, you can record it, put it out and get that kind of instant gratification.
Hmm.
So I ended up doing music for a while. We had fans. People loved what we were doing, did some performances and stuff.
Yep.
At this time, for the listeners, it's like MySpace. So people would take our songs and put them on
Yeah. The
as their
pages.
MySpace songs and stuff.
Yep.
So I was doing my thing with that. And then I leave and I launch Sneakerheads Clothing.
Dang.
right after high school. Actually, let me take one step back. I had launched something called Victorious Models when I was 18,
Okay.
and it was just like kind of like a model promo team for events.
Yeah, that's dope.
And I remember,
Like Taz's
uh,
Angels.
yeah, Taz Angels before Taz Angels.
Yeah.
And so I remember I met this guy. His name is Mike Holmes at the time. He's going by Mike
That's my
Smooth.
boy. That's my boy. I know Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So he came into the store I was working in called Lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and I just ended up chopping it up with him. And then
Yep.
he tells me he's bringing Trey Songz.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, I just launched this thing called Victoria's Models. Like, if you need some girls to like promote and work the event. And so we end up, becoming cool or whatever. We do it. And I remember B96, was hot at the time.
Yep.
And I remember hearing the commercial at the end. They're like hosted by Victoria's Models. And I was just like, yes, like hearing my creation. I'm 18, like hearing it on the
Yeah,
radio.
that's
I'm like,
big. That's
I'm
big.
like super excited. I'm like, we made it. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So, but we hosted the Trey Songs, which was dope, and that's a whole long story in itself. So I'll skip that part. But we
That's what's
hosted
up.
the Trey Songs, we hosted Gorilla Zoe, and I think we hosted Cassidy.
Okay.
And so I jumped into that, and then I was like, this, but it was a lot managing human beings,
No,
managing women, and
I
like
know.
all this stuff. So I was like, I had went back to an idea I had, and I was in the shoes. So I'm like, I'm gonna launch a clothing line.
Mm-hmm.
So I created Sneakerheads Clothing,
Right. Yep.
and to show you like how early we were on it, like I own the domain snkrheadz.com. Like,
Wow.
think about how early I had to be to own, and I could have had any other variation of it
Yeah,
too, but
if you was thinking like you could buy all them
yeah.
domains up. Man.
So, and I still own that domain to this day.
Yep. That's
Um,
what's
but
up,
uh,
man.
but I launched Sneakerheads Clothing, and so that put me on the fashion side of things. And of course, I was able to use my film production skills to shoot our own promo stuff and things
Yeah.
like that. And Sneakerheads really brought me, going back to your question of like how did I get to who I am today? Sneakerheads was the big chunk of like what took me from having ideas and kind of trying things to like into the business world and experiencing those things. Like I said,
Yeah.
you're talking about, for the listeners, you're talking about before there was selfies. You're talking about before there was a camera in the front and in the back of your phone.
Right.
And this time I'm in the club with all the major rappers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? My stuff is being worn in music videos. I got to look at the globe to see where I'm shipping stuff. You
Wow.
get what I'm saying? And like figuring out, learning how to fill out those international forms or shipping to military bases. I'm in
That's
stores
dope.
figuring out how to, fulfill orders, and all self-taught, no mentor.
Yep.
I wanted the guys who owned the store I was working at before I left to do this, or to do sneakerheads, to teach me, and they felt the way
Yeah.
about me doing my thing. So literally no mentors, nobody, no example in Minnesota to show me like how to really launch a streetwear brand.
For sure.
So launched the brand, and I remember listening to a Vlad TV interview
Mm-hmm.
long time ago, and he was talking about the technology he had in his blog, because he's like, I'm proud of it, I own it, the technology. And I'm like, dang, what technology other than the website do you have?
Right.
And so that's when I started learning more about really what goes into a successful website, to bring customers back, to analyze the data, to do all
Yeah.
these things. So I started learning the data of my customers and where they're coming from and how many times they're repeating orders.
Mm-hmm.
Traveling around the country doing like the H-Town Sneaker Summit, or the Chi-Town, I forget what it's called, Sneaker Soul, or
Yep.
whatever, just going around the country doing these different events at 19, 20, 21, 22, right? So
Yep.
just
Putting yourself in
young,
position. Yeah.
going after it, right? So I had the time of my life. I learned a lot from that, and that built so many different relationships and got me my early respect in the city
That's what's
for
up,
what I
bro.
was doing. And in that time, I ended up launching Empire Studios,
Mm-hmm.
which was a multimedia studio. A lot of the local videos you would see from like 2013 to 2019 were shot in my studio, because we had so many sets you would never know it was the same
Wow.
place. A lot of models shot in there, because I would rent it out to other photographers if they wanted to use it, right?
Yep. For sure.
So, and that was an early business model that people didn't expect, because people
Mm.
were like, dang, how you like this is expensive space? Like, how are you? And I wouldn't tell people because people like to copy.
Right.
But it's like, bro, I'm renting this thing out. Like
Right.
somebody already has a photographer. I'm not gonna put my ego in it and be like, you shoot with me or no. Yeah, all right, pay me. Pay
Right.
me to use the
Exactly.
space. You know what I'm saying? We were doing photography workshops, killing them.
Mm-hmm.
Might make $1,000 in a 4-hour session.
That's
I was
crazy.
doing so many things early that just other people weren't doing, especially in our community.
Man, we gotta clap it up for my boy Mike J one time, man.
I appreciate
That's
that.
I love stories about, to me what all I'm hearing is resilience. All I'm hearing
Yeah,
is you not making no excuses. Like no matter what, you have an idea and you're going to figure it out. You didn't have a silver spoon in your mouth. Most of us didn't.
yep,
You know what I'm saying? You don't have nobody really teaching you. Most of us that look like us don't really have those mentors that know what to do and know what not to do. And we got to figure that shit out on our own. And
exactly,
my generation,
exactly.
we had YouTube. That kind of helped out a little bit.
Yeah,
That helped out a little bit. But you know what I'm saying? I appreciate your resilience, bro. I'm so happy that, you didn't stop, you never gave up, and you just kept pushing. So
yep,
where I wanna go next is like, where is a time in there, through your whole career that, I'm sure it's many times because there's a lot of ups and downs, but a time where you felt like, man, I don't know if I could do this. Like I might need to do something else. I might need to just give up on this dream. But you kind of made it kind of young. But when
yeah,
when is the time where you felt like you wanted to give it up?
yeah. I mean, I talk about this too in my documentary "Farewell, Mike J." If people
Mm-hmm.
want to see the early years,
Okay.
um,
Where's that at?
it's on YouTube. You can
YouTube.
check
Okay.
it out on
Farewell, Mike
YouTube.
J. Yeah, we gotta check
Farewell,
that
Mike
out.
J. It premiered at AMC too, which is dope.
Okay,
Like
that's
that's
lit
another legendary moment
for sure.
because it premiered next door to us was Dumbo, Captain Marvel, and the movie Us.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
legendary as well.
Facts.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I've had lots of moments like that. Luckily, with Black Tech Talent, I haven't had that. Black Tech Talent is like honestly probably the most fun I've had since Sneakerheads,
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I had Sneakerheads, I had Empire Studios, I had Exa, which was a women's line,
Mm-hmm.
and I had Premium, and then Black Tech Talent.
Yep.
And Black Tech Talent is probably the most fun I've had, along with like the work, right?
For sure.
Um,
You've been
with
battle
Premium,
tested, man.
I had a few moments where I was like, man, maybe this isn't for me because it was such a huge undertaking. And for the listeners, Premium is an event marketing platform that helps promoters and venues better understand their audience through data
Mm-hmm.
in order to help them sell more tickets, right?
Yep.
And so, like, Premium was a lot of fun too. It wasn't that it wasn't fun,
Yep.
but being in this market, people on the professional side don't invest in entertainment, which I'm sure you're seeing now.
No, for sure.
And then people on the urban side are competitive.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're creating a product for them, if they're already popping, they're like, well, I'm already popping. Why do I need this?
Right. Exactly.
And if they're not popping, then they're scared to try anything that people aren't used to using already.
Exactly.
And so it was a lot of unnecessary hustle to sell sell to the unsellable.
Yep. I
Because if you
know
go to
what you mean.
investors, they're like, well, why isn't every black promoter using your thing? Can't explain to them that people are hating or
Right.
they don't understand it. This is your core. Like, you got to prove it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a mixture between like trying to, broaden my horizons outside of here versus like doing stuff. So we still made a lot of money, but we did a lot of things on our own. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? We self-produced a lot of the concerts, stuff like that. And what sucked was right before the pandemic, I had a deal in the works with Diddy.
Wow.
I was in negotiations with Rhyme Sayers.
Damn. Yeah,
And I had
pandemic
a
messed up a
couple other
lot,
record
man.
labels and stuff. And then the pandemic happened and all that went to zero. So the pandemic
I
was a
remember you were
moment.
telling me about that when we first met, because we met, right at the beginning of the pandemic when I started Packed House Live. And I remember you
Yeah,
was telling me it, and you was still heavy on Premiere at that time in
Premium.
2020.
Yeah. So like that was a moment where I had to really sit down and be like, what do I do now?
Right.
And in the beginning of the pandemic, there was no stimulus checks yet. When it
Yep.
first started, I'm talking about March, April,
Yep. For sure.
there was no unemployment for self-employed.
Yep.
At the time, they launched it out like in the summer, but
Yep.
when I
I
And
got
then
that back pay. I got that back pay. Thank you,
yeah.
Las Vegas.
And then there was so there were just so lack of resources, uncertainty, all that.
Yep.
So that was a scary moment because we couldn't do any events.
Yep.
Building premium, it took me 5 different developers in a
Dang.
few years to get it done. So even that experience of spending money and going through developers and like that was a huge learning curve, a huge discouragement.
For
So
sure.
there were a lot of moments in that where I'm like, dang, I'm doing everything I got to do. I'm learning. I know what my vision is. And it was them. It was still to this day, even with Black Tech Town, where it's at, I can still tell you it was the developers either not knowing what they were doing, but thinking I'm dumb. So they figure they can get over.
Right.
And I actually, even not knowing what I needed to know, I still knew they weren't doing their work because my
Right.
streets.
Exactly. No, for sure. I experienced that too with Packed House. Same thing.
Yeah,
Like, but the thing about people like us is, we might not know right away, but we gonna pick up on it.
we're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, we're gonna
If
pick
I
up on
don't,
it.
if I
Like,
don't know something, it's not because I can't learn it.
right, for sure. It's just, yeah,
So
we
I'm
just
I'm
don't.
gonna figure out what I need to figure out when it's time. But
Exactly.
that was a big discouragement point in time when I first launched Empire Studios and was getting into photography. Some of the at that time it was like way different for like models. Like the most beautiful girls wanted to model and it was plentiful and you could always do a shoot.
Yep.
But like certain models were more popping than others because there wasn't a lot of photographers either though.
Right, for sure.
So you kind of had the elite models, the elite photographers coming up at the same time. So when I was doing sneakerheads, it was easy because who didn't want to model for a clothing line?
Right, for
I had
sure.
my pick of whoever I wanted. When I switched over to being the photographer, it was a little harder. I
Right.
had my relationships and stuff, but like actually stamping that because they're like, "Oh, you're the clothing lines guy. Why are you shooting now?"
Okay, we need to shoot for our stuff.
Yeah. So they didn't.
It's
So
better to do
it's kind
everything
of
in house
that.
when you know what I'm saying, when you running your own business.
Yeah. So it was kind of like growing out of the perceptions that people had already put on me
Right.
every time I launched something new.
For sure.
And people understanding that I can recreate the businesses over and over again in different forms. So those are a couple examples of like just discouraging moments. It's just really like chasing after something you want with everything you got, and like for some reason it's still not working.
So when you having those moments for the viewers, I always gotta go here, man. But when you
Yeah.
having those moments, like what kept you going? Because it don't happen one time, it don't happen 2 times. It continues to happen, and it's never gonna stop. Like it's always gonna be moments where it's like this ain't working the way that I envisioned. And what kept you, just keep what kept you motivated to take that next step and do it again or start something new again.
Yeah. I mean, part of it's just personality. Like, you know, I'm an extremely driven person.
Yep.
And part of it is like at this point, it's just knowing who I am, knowing I'm going to get it done at some point or not. So even though it's still frustrating in the moment, I know I'm going to get done what I want to get done.
Yep.
I think at that point in time, the biggest one was premium. Because with clothing, something's late, it still comes. If it's not selling at the moment, it's still on the shelf. You can sell it later. You can do giveaways, you can do contests, you can do photos. Like even when my graphic designers moved, so I taught myself how to do graphic design and how to like have print ready files and all that. The app was the thing that I didn't have any control over because I didn't code and I didn't have time to learn how to code what I wanted because it was in advance. So even if I was like, let me learn how to code real quick, I wouldn't have been able to build what I had,
Exactly.
So that was probably the darkest time because I'm at the mercy of these developers.
Exactly.
And I'm spending so much money on this. And what I ended up doing was because I knowing myself and how driven I am, I gave myself a timeline.
Right.
And I think it was like the spring. And I was like, if I don't have what I want in life by the fall, then I quit. And I'm not a quitter. But this is a restriction I put on myself. And I was like, yeah. And I did it. I did. It was crazy. I did everything I said I was going to do by the deadline. And then we kicked off 2018 with the Super Bowl.
Yep.
With premium in the Super Bowl. So,
that's what's up,
it's a lot of it is, believing, really self-assessment. looking at the product and what you're doing, and is it worth it? And that's why it was such a dark time, because it wasn't like an idea that you would like to do and it's not working and you realize it wasn't the best idea.
Right.
To this day in 2021 going into 2022, it's still very needed in the industry.
100%.
So knowing that, no, this is right, this is the product, I have the money to do it, I have the resources to do it, like, and it's not getting done, is extremely, because you're like, what is blocking this from getting done, right?
Right.
um and so that was very taxing mentally, but I gave myself a deadline, and I told myself, I said, if you're going to give yourself this deadline, you got to try as hard as you can until that deadline. If you're going to quit by this deadline, you have to go hard
Put it all
until the
on, leave it all
deadline.
on the floor.
And I put it all, yeah, I put it all on the line, and we launched for Super Bowl. So, yeah, I put in that work, man. That was a time where I definitely had to overcome those mental, the mental anguish of like feeling like you're failing.
For sure, man. So now we got the black tech talent.
Yes,
So
sir.
what is the mission, man? What is the mission for black tech talent, and where are you trying to take it?
Yeah, so our goal is to increase the representation of Black technologists, both in corporate careers and entrepreneurship. And we're doing this by curating a pipeline of job opportunities, education, community, and then what we call culturally specific content.
That's dope.
And so, as a business model, we specialize in the hiring, retention, and engagement of Black technologists, essentially.
Yep.
We're the number one community for Black technologists. And essentially, we're just trying to fill in that pipeline. We're trying to take care of the people already in tech that are looking to switch jobs, people who might have even retired already, but they're looking to stay within the tech community,
Yep.
and the kids, making sure the kids are getting involved.
That's lit, man. Very much needed. You know what I'm saying? Very much needed, man. I'm so happy that you're doing this. You are innovative, dog. I know you know
Thank
that. You're a visionary. I know you know that. But from another visionary, man, I'm impressed. I'm really
Appreciate
impressed
that.
by your story, and just continuously going, never giving up. And I love when people are able to learn everything they need to learn, because that's the hardest part. It's like when you're trying to build up, you can't afford, excuse me, you can't afford to pay somebody to do everything. So you
Right.
have to learn, and that's the ones that I see that win are the ones that take that time to learn and figure out what they can do in house, and then be able to get other people to help them out. And man,
Sure.
you did it, bro. And I know I love watching your journey. I know we just met in 2020, so I'm new to
Yeah.
it.
We
But
actually met before when you were super young.
okay.
We met in passing through Marcus Garrett.
Marcus get
Lavish.
Lavish Boutique.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a
I
whole
think it was
another
right
story.
before you went on your whole journey
Hmm.
with Mayweather. But yeah, we met in passing through him. So I had sneakerheads was in his shop.
In the shop. Okay, yeah. So we was
Yeah.
we came together and partnered, and we're doing concerts together. So I did the Tiger Careless World concert
Okay.
with our team. He invested in one of our parties, the Big Bash 2. And yeah, we did a couple other things with him, Kid Ink and some other stuff out of town. So it was cool. We had a little run with him. Could have been bigger, but that's a whole nother story. But
That's how it always goes. We talked about the nightlife, how that
yeah.
runs. So
So look, man. So what can we expect from Mike J in 2022?
man, 2022 is about to be so crazy, bro. Like, it's about to be crazy. For context for the listeners,
Hmm.
in the last 17 months, we've won 5 awards. We've been featured in USA Today, Star Tribune, Twin Cities Business Magazine, Business Journal, Spokesman Recorder, KMOJ
Huge.
Radio, a million podcasts. We grew a community of over 4,000 members. We have 70 corporate clients that include Netflix and American Express and Target and Best Buy and just all the big companies. Google is on our list for next year, where we've been in talks with them.
Huge, man.
Microsoft. So I just want them to have that context of what we've done. So when I say it's crazy next year, they understand, like, no, it's gonna be crazy. With Black Circuit, we're gonna be doing some stuff with the metaverse. We're gonna be doing stuff with NFTs. We're gonna open our first official headquarters next year, and we'll have certain days where it's just open office hours where the community can come in, can
That's
play
dope.
some video games, check out Black Circuit, have conversations if they have questions. We'll be doing workshops, so our headquarters won't just be like a stuffy, oh, we're just in here
Right.
like doing work. Like it's gonna be the community is our focus, and it's very important. So we want the community to feel like this is part of their project and success as well.
Yep.
So the headquarters is coming, of course, the second, summit, the second annual Tech Fest. We
Hmm.
just reached out to some potential celebrity guests that we want to come host. So
That's
it's
dope,
gonna be
man.
crazy. It's gonna be we're taking advantage of all the new technology that's coming out and making sure that Black people are also shown at the forefront of these new movements that are coming. Of
For
course, our
sure.
priority as far as a business and the revenue is recruiting. So making sure we're getting more of us into these roles, and these roles are opening up even more.
Yep.
And they're now, last year we did a lot of job board stuff. We did, like I said, the events where people would come and recruit, and towards the end we started getting more recruiting contracts, but it took a long time to get to that point, and now
Yep.
they're like banging down my virtual door for us to do placements because they need it. So
Exactly.
next year is just going to be, and we're going to roll out new chapters as well. So we'll have a physical presence in different parts of the country as well.
That's
So
lit, man.
yeah, man. So
I'm
it's
happy
gonna
for
be
you.
insane. Thank
I'm
you.
happy
Yeah,
for you,
it's
man.
gonna be insane, bro.
So last thing, man, we're gonna let you go. We coming up to the hour. So give our listeners some encouraging words going into 2022, and how they can, kill it this year.
Yeah, just first off, just get started.
Yep.
Um, Learn as much as you can, but not to the point where it cripples you from getting started.
Right.
Right.
Hmm.
Whatever that idea you have right now with technology being where it's at, there's just really no excuse. Everything's become affordable.
Hmm.
You can read if you want to shoot something, but you don't have a camera. There's a camera guy somewhere who wants to shoot something and doesn't have a project, and you have a creative project, and he wants to come shoot.
Right.
You're working on music. There's millions of platforms for music and ways to collaborate with other artists. You can go on Instagram and find anybody's booking information. Just make
Yep.
sure your bag is ready.
For
Like
sure.
there's just anything you want to do. Right now is the time to start doing it and to start working on it. And success will not happen overnight.
Yep.
You'll
For
work as
sure.
hard as you can. You'll learn as much as you can, and you're still not going to be successful monetarily right away unless you're one of the few that gets lucky.
Yep.
But the point is that you got started, and you're way further than you would be if you waited to get started, right? So there's
Exactly.
so many resources on financial literacy and how to run a business and how to invest and how to flip and how to save and so on and so forth. So my biggest advice is like get started, learn as much as you can, read as much as you can, find people who you aspire to be like,
Hmm.
and ask if you can, buy them lunch and have a conversation about what you're trying to do. And I would say even something that, me and you have experienced mostly with the nightlife. It's like don't stab people in the back. Don't
Right.
steal ideas. Don't
Do good
be
business.
yeah, don't be on no new friends type of vibe because the
Yep.
most successful people in the world are consistently networking.
Yep.
They're consistently meeting new people because that's the only way you can get new information. If it's only you and your three homies from the hood, the only
Right.
information you have is yours and the three homies from the hood. And y'all all know the same thing,
Hmm.
right? Like, and sometimes you got to cut off friends from the business, meaning they can still be your day ones in everyday life,
Yep.
but those sometimes you'll be around people that will ruin your business deals because they have other agendas, or they're jealous because you just met somebody who's the real plug,
Right.
and they don't like that because they feel like they're losing their friend or they're losing their level of influence over you.
For
And
sure.
I've experienced that where I've done business with people who really could have been great,
Hmm.
but the people they were around, every time somebody came into that circle, they pushed them out,
Exactly. I've
and
seen that
now those
too.
people are in the same place that they've been in trying to figure it out as I went off and elevated where I was at. So
Exactly.
those are the two things: get started and just continuously network and learn. Don't do bad business, and just be mindful of who your friends are and who you let be a part of your business versus who you kick it with when you want to turn the business off and just chill, right?
For sure.
And I would say for next year, those are going to be the biggest
Biggest.
things.
I love that, man. Get started 2022. That's a new campaign. Get started 2022. Man, I want to say thank you, man. I appreciate you. This season 1 of Packed House Live podcast, real history right now. Two black tech talents, you know what I'm saying, doing some very innovative things, man. I learned a lot about what you're doing, too. I know some things, but I love doing these interviews because I get to learn more about, exactly what's going on. And, man, you're killing it, bro. And he didn't say he do all them interviews, and he's doing all his own PR, too, man. This dude do everything, man. He got the best PR in the Midwest, and it's him, man. So, look, like you said, learn. What'd you say?
No, I said they say I do better PR than the PR people. So
no, that's facts for real, bro. I bring that up to you all the time because you really killing it with your PR.
We got another interview coming out this Sunday through Star Tribune. So yeah, it's crazy.
That's what's up, man. So again, thank you for coming, man. Appreciate you. Have a good night. We're gonna definitely link up, and I need to be on the panel for next year too. So leave me a spot.
Yeah, you in there.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, dog. Be smooth.
Peace.
Yo, we just had Mike J, the CEO of Black Tech Talent, on Packed House Live podcast. Yo, legendary. My man, did everything, ain't never gave up, ain't never stopped. He just keep winning, bro. And them the type of people that I like around me. So in 2022, make sure you find some people like him and get around them. You dig? So thank y'all for watching. Stay tuned. We got more episodes coming. You dig? It's your boy Ricky Collins, Packed House Live CEO, signing out.